Hello again, this is Mara with the Seguin Public Library, and we're going to try one more time for our final author, William Gawthrop. William Gawthrop retired after 48 years of government service as a counterintelligence officer, United States Army, and GS-14 intelligence analyst in the United States government. He's a graduate of the Joint Military Intelligence College with a Master's of Science, Strategic Intelligence, the United States Army's Command and General Staff College, the United States Marine Corps Command and Staff College, and the United States Army War College Defense Strategy course. He has a PhD in criminal justice from Walden University, and his dissertation was doctrinal basis of Islamic utterances associated with domestic assaults. So let's see if we can get this video to play.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is William Gawthrop, and I have a PhD in criminal justice, and I am the author of the Criminal Investigator-Intelligence Handbook of Islam. This book is derived from 46 years of government experience as intelligence analyst, a military police investigator, a criminal investigator, as well as the product of my dissertation, Doctrinal Basis of Islamic Utterances Associated with Domestic Assaults. What I've prepared is a handbook or a tool for criminal investigators and intelligence analysts that avoids a lot of the political concerns and misunderstandings associated with the doctrine of jihad as criminal investigators and intelligence analysts try to discern the motivation behind criminal acts occurring in the streets. To write this book, I went back to the original sources of Islamic law, the biography of Muhammad, the hadiths of Bukhari, and the juridical texts of the 4 Sunni schools of law, and I examined piecemeal the motivations and the doctrines associated with motivating individuals to act in the defense of Islam and the pursuit of their religious and political beliefs. It's important to remember Huntington's Clash of Civilization, where Dr. Huntington postulated 6 civilizations, each civilization having members who believe in the supremacy or the superiority of their own culture and civilization. And the boundaries between the civilizations constitute fault lines where conflict will occur. Other analysts and researchers have defined the clash of civilizations as struggle and conflict and flashpoints between civilizations, neighbors, neighborhoods, and individuals. What the police see in the streets, in addition to being categorized as crime, frequently is a clash of civilizations. And what this book does is identify the forces at work and reduces them to understandable terms. With regard to the doctrine of jihad, it is sometimes misrepresented in this field of terrorism and counterterrorism studies. Terrorism is an act of defiance, and it is an act without rules of engagement. Jihad, as a body of Islamic law and a subset of Islamic law, is rule-bound and has a number of rules of engagement governing when to fight, who to fight, and how to fight. We traditionally think of jihad as a battlefield exercise. However, the doctrine makes it clear that jihad is an individual as well as a collective duty. If the individual discharges his individual duty of jihad, that duty of jihad has been discharged for the community. As a result, not everybody has to participate in jihad. The people who do participate in jihad are frequently autonomous, self-actualizing believers who are committing, in their view, an act of devotion and, at the same time, discharging a legal duty to act. There are a number of motivations for inducing jihad: the defense of Islam, correcting a wrong, protecting a right, And these motivations are actually the backdrop of a lot of crimes that we see in the street. A believer pursuing jihad has a positive duty to act. He has a positive duty to correct a wrong. And in his mind, the context of the Islamic justification is quite proper, an obligation expressed in the Western context or in the Western civilization in the streets. That duty could become a crime. An individual has a positive duty to take action against another he sees committing a wrong. However, if that is an act of violence, it becomes a crime in the streets. What happens next is that the criminal justice system begins an investigation into that particular offense, and the investigator, supported by the intelligence analyst, then begins to explore a crime that has its origins in another civilization. Our criminal justice education and the intelligence training received by our analysts do not fully understand the motivations and the legal doctrines and the dynamics associated with this foreign doctrine. As a result, the jihadist, who is a true believer, very frequently a rational actor acting in the defense of his own civilization, candidly explains to the police officer and the investigators the motivation for his actions. His justification is so at variance to what the law enforcement community has come to understand that they cannot believe what they are hearing. So they write off the individual as mentally ill, a quack, or a crazy. At that point, the criminal justice system is diverted along an alternate track. That misunderstanding of the doctrine effectively derails the investigation, and as a result, the criminal justice process, not fully appreciating the dynamics of the phenomenon really at work, fails to adjudicate the case in a proper manner. The motivation for this work is rooted in my experience both as a criminal investigator and a military police investigator, as well as an intelligence analyst for the United States government. The problem that we had is that we have a number of individuals acting out their obligation to jihad, but we keep misunderstanding their motivations. That's because of the cross-cultural barriers associated with Huntington's Clash of Civilizations. We don't understand the inner dynamics of the other civilization. So my book goes into a detailed explanation of what makes that civilization tick. And one of the first topics that we talk about is Muhammad. For all of the fanfare and the debate about Muhammad, the following is true. He created a religion, he created a body of law, he created a culture, and more importantly, he created a civilization. I am hard-pressed to think of any other civilization whose founding can be traced back to a single individual. So the book begins with an understanding of Muhammad as a very dynamic leader and as a very dynamic force whose example continues to influence actors today. As a result, what the book does is it dissects aspects of Islam and Muhammad and how it relates to criminal justice equities in the United States today. What is it about the ideology, the doctrine, the religion, the legal system, and Muhammad's example that has implications for law enforcement? We explore that in detail. The process of writing the book was relatively straightforward. I had been writing on Islamic topics for close to 3 decades and had accumulated a lot of information, and thank God for Microsoft Word and a good indexing system. And then I brought all of that out to bear in my dissertation. Following the dissertation, one of the instructors said, "Now what are you going to do with this knowledge?" Okay. Remember that bachelors acquire knowledge, masters apply knowledge, and PhDs create knowledge. So with that new knowledge, I wrote the book. And writing the book was intended to be a tool for criminal investigators and intelligence analysts where they could step by step, topic by topic, look at the various factors that may manifest themselves in a criminal investigation. And I link those factors back to the doctrine. And the intent is to take the evidence from the streets to include the utterances made by the subject while he is committing his act and link them back to doctrine so that the investigator, the intelligence analyst, the prosecutor, the courts, and the jury are able to trace the motivations back to their doctrinal sources. The process of writing the book is relatively straightforward. I took the dissertation, modified it to book form, and then started looking for a publisher. In my case, I dealt with Outskirts Press, and the procedure was relatively straightforward. Initial email to introduce myself. They approved the manuscript for publication. They have a reputation to protect as well. They ran it through their editorial process, and then we got into the mechanics of what kind of cover did I want, what kind of formatting of the interior product was desirable. And then they returned my manuscript to me in the galley form, matching the interior formatting that we had discussed. I made my corrections, and then once your file is completed, put it aside, give it a week, and then go back and read it again. And you will see errors in there that are so glaring you wonder how in the world you missed it in the first place. Once you've done that, give the text to some of your friends and invite them to read it and comment on it. Collect all the feedback, do one more final polish, and then send it to your publisher. They made the changes as requested, send it back for final approval. I approved it, send it back in, and from there, the publishers go into their processes of getting the book published. Kept in contact with the publisher. They kept me apprised of the schedule. And within 30 days, I received both a hardback and a softback version of the book for yet another final approval. Once that approval was given, they went into the production phase, posted it to Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and other book publishing or book sales companies, and pretty soon the product began taking on a life of its own. One of the most important things you can do as a writer is get a good spell check program such as Grammarly and just beat yourself to death on hammering out the rough points. Publishing is a lot of fun. It's a lot of attention to detail, and as you go through this process, you'll really come to appreciate how important your English teacher was in high school. Thank you very much. Have a good day.